Moving on now to Brandon Eiler. Conservatives won the vote in Virginia. How do we get libertarians to get their heads out of their ampersands and stop pulling the lever for Democrats? The libertarians didn't vote for Democrats. They just made sure that the conservative didn't win. Yeah, it was frustrating, Brandon. I'm with you on that one. Very frustrating. What I want to know is, well, first of all, it looks like there's pretty good evidence that the Libertarian candidate was bundled by an Obama supporter, was put there by an Obama supporter. So what I want to know is why our conservative candidate and our Republican Party didn't make that the last second 3-day bomb of ad blitzes. So on and so on. The Libertarian candidate is sponsored by a person who bundles for Barack Obama, who is the most anti-libertarian creature in the world. What possible advantage do you think Barack Obama and his money handler would have by introducing a candidate into the race? He's not a real libertarian. Why do you think he's doing that? He's trying to get you to give up your power and hand power over to the progressives who just ruined your health care insurance. How hard is this to do? I don't know. Doesn't seem hard to me. But look, somebody's going to have to do something about this split between conservatives and libertarians. And I think on a lot of levels, look, I'm a conservative. I have a lot of libertarian tendencies, and I seem like maybe I'm getting more libertarian every day. But libertarianism has one thing going for it that conservatives and Republicans don't have, and that is they haven't had time to completely squash and tarnish the name yet, which is kind of this whole common sense resistance argument, which I'm going to get to in these firewalls, so I can't really go into too much of this right now. But basically, the GOP didn't support this guy. The GOP is terrified of the Tea Party because the Tea Party means the end of the GOP establishment. And I've come to realize that the people who are career politicians of either party there's something wrong with them. I can say this with a fair amount of certainty, that most of the people in Washington who are Republicans, certainly it's true for the elected people, it's true for their staffs, and it's true for some of these think tanks, that they're perfectly happy staying in Washington out of power so long as they stay in Washington in office. Because as long as they're in office, they get all the perks. As long as they're in office, they get all the, Scotch bottles appear at their door, and they get taken out for dinner, and they get flown on this junket and that junket, and all this other stuff. What difference does it make if they're out of power, right? I mean, as long as they're getting what they want. It's all about the kind of person that goes into politics in the first place. And the Tea Party doesn't book that kind of thing. Book or brook? I don't really remember. But in any event, we tend to say, country screwed up, we're going to send people there for 2 years, change it, and we're going to leave. And they fear the Tea Party because the Tea Party, unlike the progressives, which have to manufacture and pay people to get on buses to go to protests and print up all their signs and all their shirts for them, unlike them, the Tea Party is in fact an actual honest-to-God popular movement of the people. So, I don't know. But I think the answer is probably going to be, if there is an answer, it's probably going to be something along the lines of, hey, why don't we look how things look in the fall of 2016 after the conventions? Now, why don't we just agree to say that whoever's got the largest percentage of the vote, let's say we have it's off the sake of the argument, let's say that Hillary Clinton for the Democrats is polling 40%, and the conservative candidate is polling 37%, and the libertarian candidate's polling 23%, or whatever. Why don't the conservatives and the libertarians just agree that after the conventions, after the last of the 3 conventions are over, whoever's got the biggest number among the conservatives and the libertarians, why don't we agree that that guy's going to be the president and that the libertarian guy will be the vice president? And then we'll have a conservative libertarian or a conservatarian ticket, and the conservatarian ticket then will just simply destroy them. Why don't we do that? And why don't we make an agreement that, if we have to combine these two, then we will eliminate one plank from the Republican thing that the Libertarians hate, and the Libertarians will eliminate one plank that the Conservatives hate, and that'll be the compromise, and we'll get together, and your guy will be vice president. No guarantee who wins. Maybe the Libertarian will have a bigger number. Why don't we get together like that and shake hands and understand that the amount of differences we have with these miserable control freak state lunatics that are trying to take over the world and are succeeding at it, that the differences we have with them are, 98% of our differences are with them, and 2% of our differences are with each other. Why don't we go out and win, and then sort out just exactly how much of this control state we're going to burn down? Why don't we just win and get some power, and then together, you and I, conservative and libertarian, will sit down and figure out where we're going to stop burning down these walls that encage us, and just how many chains we're gonna unfetter ourselves from. Because we're going to unfetter ourselves from 98% of them, and maybe the Republicans don't want to go the final 2 chains, or maybe the Libertarians don't like this or don't like that. Why don't we just agree that there's 98% of this crap that we hate needs to be burned down? Let's go burn that down, and then when we've gotten rid of 98% of our shackles, you and I together can argue about what we do with the final 2% of our shackles once we're free again. Remember that? That's what I would do. And I'd put those rules in advance, right? Fair is fair, right? I'm not saying the Republicans are going to draw more votes than the Libertarians, and I'm not going to say which side I'm going to campaign on. I am going to say that these two people together have so much in common that this business about splitting the vote is, why don't we just shake hands on it like grown-ups, like adults? At the beginning of the game, which will be the beginning of the 2016 campaign, at the beginning of the game, why don't we publicly state in a combined platform, the conservatives in the Republican Party, the Republicans, in other words, and the Libertarian Party, and the Constitution Party, why don't we all agree in advance, with a handshake, publicly? We don't know which candidates are going to succeed. We don't know who's going to break out of the pack. We don't know which party's going to have the most votes in the end. We don't care. But what we'll do is we'll agree that the president will be the person who has the highest number of polls when all of our conventions are over and each party has its own candidate, right? Or maybe just as we go into them. Why don't we just agree that the number 1 vote getter is going to be the president, the number 2 vote getter is going to be the vice president, and the number 3 vote getter, so we can get the Constitutional Party in there, is going to be Secretary of State. It's a deal. It's a contract. It's a contract. It's not just a deal. It's a contract. We agree. We agree. We agree that the number 1 threat to this country are these statists, these out-of-control statists who are going to put us all in shackles, and they're going to ruin this economy more than they already have. And we all 3 together agree on 98, 95, 94% of the stuff, so we together are going to make this a legal binding contract between the Republican Party, the Libertarian Party, and the Constitutional Party. That the number 1 slot will go to this guy, the number 2 slot will go to that guy, number 3 slot will go to that guy. We don't have to campaign together. We don't have to agree in the primaries. We can all go out there and try to win all our votes. Everything's fantastic. Maybe the Libertarians will surprise us. Wouldn't that be awesome? The Libertarians have the highest number of things. It's going to be a Libertarian president with a Republican vice president. That's the deal. Boy, they wouldn't know what to do out of that, would they? They would not know what to do. No. Maybe I'll postulate that. We get enough people signing up at BillWhittle.com, I might have the resources to start a common sense resistance political party, and then we'll get out there and we'll see if we can't whip these people. But I don't have the kind of money that the Clintons have, let's say. I give speeches. I gave 25 of them this year, and I wasn't booking $250,000 per, like Madam President did.